Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. So this is the secrets of connecting with sellers without spending money in mailers. My name is Phil. I'm one of the customer relations person for ChicagoDealVault, and I will be hosting tonight's webinar. Allow me to introduce our guest speaker. He is one of the best who made tremendous success in wholesaling, a very reliable resource person. He is also the managing partner of Investors Title Services, LLC, title company by real estate investors for real estate investors. And he will bring us a lot of ideas and experiences tonight. So friends, let me introduce to you Mr. Dan Clarden. Hello, Dan.
Hi there, Phil. Thanks for having me.
Thank you as well.
So, looks like there's plenty of people on the call tonight. It sure would be nice to have some people turn on their cameras. So, if you're in a place where you can do that, please do. As Phil mentioned, my business partner Joe Mueller and I own Investors Title Services, where we work with wholesalers to get their deals closed, whether that be assignments or perhaps double closes. So we facilitate those kind of deals, and it's important to have somebody like us as a resource on those deals because this is a local webinar, I think, for the most part. Most of you are probably from the Chicago area. And the way we do deals, wholesale deals in our market is different than the out-of-state gurus, the out-of-state podcasts, the YouTubers that you may or may not be watching. In other markets, it's a completely different way of going about things. So if you're going to get a deal around here and you're going to follow what they're teaching you, it's going to end badly. So we can help you so it doesn't. While I'm here, before we get down the road too far, I'm going to give you my email address, and I'm even going to go so far as to give you my cell phone number. Because helping people get over the hump is what I enjoy doing. I think if I would have had a little different direction, it might not have taken me a year to actually close my first wholesale deal. So if I can be a part of accelerating that process for any of you, I'm here to try to help you if I can. One of the other ways we can help you if you get a deal is if you think you have an opportunity and that's really all you know, by all means call me. We'll come alongside you. If it means I have to go out and get the contract, I will. If it means I got to bring a buyer, I will. We will, Joe and I. And we're still going to split the deal with you 50-50, even if we do basically 90%. So the nice thing about bringing that opportunity is you're going to be able to walk alongside and see all the steps that happen after you get the contract with the seller. For tonight's chat, and I'm so glad that I'm able to still be outside. You know, FDR used to have those fireside chats, and I've been enjoying the porch chats with other investors over the course of the nice weather, and I don't know how many more of these nice nights we have in front of us. I'd like to specifically congratulate you for being here on a Monday night. There's certainly other things you could be doing and other places you could be spending your time, but the fact that you're here is an indication that you're trying to do something to improve your circumstances, maybe break out of the situation that you're now in, maybe just looking for some extra money to get some bills paid down. And off-market properties and wholesaling them off can be a fast path to cash. But the expectation should be that this might be one of the hardest things you're going to do. And if you have the wherewithal and the perseverance and the high pain tolerance to get to the other side, the rewards can be great. I'll also remind you that we're not reinventing the wheel here. So the fact that not only myself, but people all around the country are acquiring properties off market, whether they're keeping them, holding them for rentals, flipping them, and or wholesaling them. This is done every day. So I guess maybe one of the questions to continue to ask yourself, and I really didn't think about it like this in the very beginning, but then I started adopting it. And this goes for this or a lot of things in life. Why not me? Why not you? You don't need any special education, any special college degrees and master's degrees to do this. This is simply having some hustle, having a heart to help people, and working hard. So tonight, the topic is how to connect with sellers without doing mailers. And while mailers can be a pretty significant way of connecting with sellers, it's also very expensive. I forgot the number Joe dropped on me tonight. I think he said we have 25,000 mailers going out next week. Um, you know, that's a lot of money at 50 cents a postcard and postage and pulling lists and doing all those things. So there's got to be a way that we can connect with some sellers without dropping that kind of money to make it happen. So I have a list here that I'm going to go through, and maybe you're going to want to take some notes. Some of these things really don't cost any money. Some of them do, but it's just the whole exercise is just to kind of expand your brain into some ways to get in touch with people that may have a situation to sell their house other than just dropping letters and postcards, which is kind of marketing 101 for real estate investors. Some of these are going to be like you've heard 100 times, but if there's any of them here that are new and can find your way to a deal, then your time here was well spent. So, of course, the most obvious one outside of direct mail would be bandit signs. Bandit signs don't have to be anything fancy. They're merely we buy houses as is, we buy houses for cash, we buy houses any condition, any location, any gyration of verbiage. But the big secret is get them out there. Put them out there, be consistent with them, and you might want to get a Google Voice number to maybe try to avoid code enforcement, because in many areas, code enforcement frowns on these kind of signs. But you'd be surprised. There's one on a telephone pole that I put up, I think, 2 years ago, and I drove by it the other day and I just snickered in the fact that it's still there. Because again, it only takes one phone call, and the fact that that sign's out there could be a $30,000 deal. Another way to make people aware of who you are and what you're doing would be to have a real estate investor website. I had a nice 30-minute conversation with a nice lady up in Grays Lake today that said she was on our website and was very impressed with what she saw. And she had a postcard from somebody else, and they didn't really have any kind of website or anything. So she called me. So those kind of things can be tiebreakers. There are little things you can do to kind of maybe separate yourself from what everybody around you is doing. But let's talk about some of the more guerrilla marketing tactics. How about flyers? I know I don't know if all the grocery stores, they don't pay attention, but I know when I go to the Woodman's out my way, there's a big bulletin board right in the front door by the bathrooms, and people have all sorts of things thumbtacked to it. Why not have a sign that, hey, if you need to sell your house, we're looking to buy, we pay cash, something like that, and put your phone number. Door hangers. There's another thing. If you're out, canvassing an area, maybe you're doing some door knocking. If people aren't home, maybe you just want to throw a little door hanger on. Business cards. That's another thing. You should be giving your business card to everybody you know. And everybody that you know should know what you're doing in real estate. And for the sake of friends and family, so you don't, confuse them and try to take them down a road that isn't necessary. The top line is that you buy houses. You're looking for investment properties. You prefer properties that are a little tired, need a little love, need a little work. Um, maybe the seller doesn't think their house is nice enough to be put on the MLS, etc. So make sure everybody knows that you buy houses. So if anybody they know um, might need to sell a house, maybe you can pick up a referral. um, if you're targeting certain villages in particular, you can go to the village and you can request through FOIA, which is the Freedom of Information Act, properties that have code enforcement issues. So people that have long grass, tarps on the roof, broken windows, basically neglected properties, you can get a list from the village and you might want to go door knocking and see if any of those people would consider selling their house. Of course, there's the for sale by owner websites. Um, there's evictions. Think about what a wealth of leads that could be from tired landlords. We're not real happy about it, but we bought a house a year ago, April, and the people we bought the house from never moved out. And because of COVID, there's nothing we can do to get them out. So thankfully, we have the wherewithal and the resources to kind of ride it out. Because frankly, at the price we bought this house for, um, the fact that they've lived here this long, it's still a great deal for us. So we're putting up with it. But there's a lot of landlords that have tenants and they're not paying rent. They haven't been paying rent, and more importantly, uh, if and when the time comes where they can actually evict these people and get them out of the house, a lot of those properties are going to be in need of repair, and they're going to need money spent before they can be re-rented. And some of the landlords that have been making mortgage payments, because last time I checked, this whole rent forgiveness program the government offers doesn't have anything to do with investors that have mortgages with banks not having to pay their mortgage. So my hunch is there's some landlords that have been making payments and sucking down their war chest of money, and some of them have had it up to here with this. And at the first possible opportunity, they're going to want to unload some properties. And by going to the county office, you can pull up the evictions, and you might start chasing those particular owners. Take your time and be careful, because a lot of them are going to be apartment buildings and apartment complexes. So you don't want to be spinning your wheels chasing deals you can't get. So be trying to look for probably the single family houses is what I would recommend. Um, it'll cost a little money, but you could have some I buy houses door magnets made for your car. Door magnets are fine. Frankly, I like something you can put on the back of your car better. Um, even if it's some lettering on the back window, or if you have some kind of van or something, maybe that there's a big enough panel that you could put one of those magnets on the back of your car. That way, everywhere you go, people are aware that you're buying houses. Um, you can still put an ad in those penny saver type papers. Those are still floating around. You might throw a cheap ad in there. I got a deal years ago out in Genoa. I have a nice townhouse on it was a golf course until they sold off the golf course. But that came from an ad in, I think, what's it called, that Orange Peel Gazette or whatever, that's out in the western suburbs, largely available for free at all the fast food joints and things like that. And I actually pulled a nice deal out of that. Billboards. That's certainly possible. I will tell you that We did a billboard campaign in the past, and we didn't even do anything fancy. We literally just took our bandit sign that we were putting out on corners every weekend and said, hey, what if we made a big billboard out of it? We did a 16-week campaign, and that billboard got moved around to 3 different locations. And I'm not really quite sure why. We get calls off the little signs at the stoplight. The big giant billboard, we didn't get any calls. Or one. I think we got 1 call. So that was $2,500 that we burned. But you know, if you don't know if you don't try, and maybe it was the fact that we had the same bandit sign as normal. Maybe we should have been a little more creative. Maybe we would have got different results. TV and radio ads, those are done by a very select few people in this market. You probably hear, if you hear about that stuff, it's being done in smaller markets because the price to do it isn't as high. It can be pretty cost prohibitive for most businesses to be laying out a campaign of radio and TV ads in the 3rd largest city in America, but it can be done. We buy houses apparel. Today, what am I wearing? I'm wearing an Under Armour hoodie. Well, I wear that to the store. That doesn't spark a conversation. Maybe you want to think about having a golf shirt or a sweatshirt or a jacket, or there used to be a guy that came to our real estate meetup out here in Algonquin, and he had a super impressive looking, the same kind of hats that the pro baseball players wear. I forget what they're called, ERAs, or can't think of the name of them right now, but you know the ones I'm talking about. And he had, it said, I buy houses right on the front of it. You never know that could strike up a conversation when you're out shopping or, just out in public in general. Here's another one. How about calling on the properties that are for rent? People have rentals that they're marketing. Maybe it's on Craigslist. Maybe it's on Facebook Marketplace. Maybe it's on Zillow. Maybe you want to inquire and say, hey, I see you're looking to rent the place. Have you ever considered selling it? I'd be interested. You could call and or send, call or stop by probate attorneys. Everyone talks about probate deals and wanting to find out who the executor is going to be so you can bump into the mail. Last time I checked, probate attorneys are probably pretty well aware of the circumstances of their clients. Maybe you want to make nice with a couple of attorneys and go, hey, if you have any of your clients looking to sell a house as part of the estate, send them my way. And that's just another way they can show value to their clients. What else? Old school yellow pages. You're going to laugh at that, but I will tell you that for some reason in this off-market space, our typical seller is probably north of 60 years old. 60, 70, 80 seems to be the sweet spot. And although social media and cell phones and all that is the rage with a younger generation, 70-year-old people, they're old school. A lot of those people still get a newspaper, even though it's wafer thin. They still get it. And a lot of them still go to the yellow pages when they're looking for something. And that might be a place, those ads are inexpensive. You could put something in there. If you're in the city, you can do public transit, bus benches or on buses in general. Frankly, we've never looked into the pricing on that because we don't do a whole lot in the city. We're more based in the suburbs, but that could be another way. Coupon books. Does anybody get those Valpak things in the mail where you open it up and it's just a whole pile of different coupons for stuff? Again, we've never done it, but I'm just trying to throw out ideas that you might consider. Of course, Craigslist. Uh, I've pulled deals off Craigslist before, but again, you got to be on there all the time. You got to be looking for new things. You obviously can tell the houses that wholesalers are trying to dump on there, so avoid those. But certainly, if somebody looks like they're the actual owner, um, you might want to chase some of those leads. Some of you that have heard me speak before, I'll tell you in the past, I used to have a little sticky note over on the side of my computer screen, and it said, "Is what you're doing right now going to make you any money?" And I had to be reminded of that in the beginning constantly because I found myself, um, busy seemingly, but activity and productivity aren't the same thing. So, it's awful easy to keep yourself busy doing things that aren't going to make you any money. And in our business, talking to sellers is where we make money. Not making any money if you're not talking to sellers. So unless you got a pipeline and you have 10 contracts you're looking to sell, when in doubt, find sellers to talk to. I think it costs about $2,000 to do a wrap on a vehicle. But if you wanted to go big and be loud, you could wrap a vehicle with your information that you buy houses. What else? Money drop cards. I don't have an example. Uh, Google drop cards, and there's a company that makes these drop cards, and you fold them in half, and they even kind of like lock together in a way so that when you throw them down, and they look like 20 or $100 bills. And we worked with an investor that pulled a really nice deal that we partnered on a Lombard with a drop card. I think they said they dropped it at Ulta or somewhere, but they were out shopping. And if stores are going to be open, we're getting into the Christmas season. Um, people are out and about. Now again, don't litter the whole store with them. That gets people mad. Drop a couple, in the store, in the aisles, and it's kind of fun to watch people pick them up because it's amazing how fast they get picked up. And again, it's a game of you throw a lot of them out there, but again, you only need one. I think that one drop card deal probably netted 45,000. I think not bad. Um, depending, you probably have a job that doesn't allow you to do this, but if you have a personal email, you could have a signature reminding anybody that happens to get an email from you that you buy houses. Um, what else here? Um, I don't know how to find out this information, but if you could find out if people are getting their cars repossessed, the house can't be far behind. Um, you might send your business cards or just call like carpet cleaning companies. A lot of times people are cleaning their carpeting. Either A, they're getting ready for the holidays, or B, they're trying to clean the place up a little bit before they sell it. So maybe you tell all the carpet cleaners in your area that, hey, if you come across somebody looking to sell their house and you put me onto them, you'll pay them a referral. Um, let's see. You can go to, there's a Section 8 website. I think it's gosection8.com. That's one you could check out. That's always a list of people looking to run properties. But there again, um, you never know when someone's had it. We talk to tired landlords all the time. They've had these properties a long time. They've deferred maintenance. They know the house needs a lot of work, and at their age, they just want to be done. They've made their money in the cash flow over the years. Sometimes they just want to dump a property. Um, you might stop by some of these assisted living facilities. These places are popping up everywhere. Um, Maybe stop by, say hi to somebody there that's in admissions or working with new families. And it's possible that a lot of the older folks that are looking to move into those kind of places, maybe they got a house they need to sell. Um, Same with, there's a lot of building going on. Any new subdivisions, talk to the salespeople in there because a lot of times people selling their house hinges whether or not they can buy the new house. So if you can be a resource to buy someone's house, because the nice thing is, again, you can buy their house on the date that works for them. So they don't have to be homeless. You can be a nice smooth transition to buying their house to them closing on the new house. Um, Mortgage companies. So some of this is just old fashioned, pick up the phone. But I guess the key of going through a lot of this list was how to do things that aren't going to cost thousands of dollars in marketing. So there's a bunch of things that you can do that don't cost a ton of money. And that list that I just gave you can be some of the ideas. Um, John asks, how do you find out contact information on the owners of buildings with evictions listings? So those are at the courthouse. So if you pull up the court records, it'll tell you who the owner is. And if I remember, I haven't done it in a while, but I think they gave phone numbers too. At bare minimum, maybe get the mailing address and the name, etc. And maybe you'd have to have it skip traced. So skip tracing does not cost a lot of money, and you can call people. Of course, there's cold calling. Those are some of the obvious ones. Make sure you check the do not call register, and if you want to play it safe, and it takes longer and it's harder, but make those calls from your cell phone. All these mojo dialers and all this fancy technology is pretty sexy and sounds exciting, but um, there's people that have paid some pretty significant fines by using those kinds of things because of all the anti-spam legislation and things of that nature. Although for some reason, it seems like the people that want to sell us car warranties, uh, that doesn't apply to them, does it? All right, we're about a half hour in. So we talked about, connecting with sellers. Does anybody else have any questions that I might answer um, with regards to sellers or marketing to sellers or what to say when sellers call you, how to screen them, what are the right questions to ask, um, how to determine whether there's a potential deal to be had or there isn't. I think if you scroll up, you can get, oh, it's gone. No, no. If you scroll all the way up to the top, my name and phone number and my email address are, there it is. Great. Phil just put it in again. There you go. Yes, Danny wants to know what I say to sellers. It's getting dark in here. I'll get closer. So mostly I try to befriend people and I try to treat people like I've known them for years. So I yuck it up with them. I'm friendly. I try to smile when I talk to them. Tell me about the house. What's causing you to sell. Sometimes I like to set the expectations because people they don't necessarily want to get into a half-hour phone call. It was just last week before. An investor called me, had a lead, wanted to know if I wanted the JV on the deal and if I wanted to call the seller. I said, yeah, that'd be great. We talked about the circumstances and said, it doesn't really sound like there's a deal there from what you told me, but let's go through the exercise because, you want to practice on non-deals so that when a real deal comes, you're ready. So I said, I'll tell you what, we'll do a three-way call. I'll do the call and you can listen in. And he was pretty excited about that. And when we called the lady, her initial thing was, how long is this going to take? Because I only have about 3 or 4 minutes. When we hung up, it was 18 minutes later. So typically, if people are going to ask me, hey, how long is this going to take? I tell them it's going to take 3 to 5 minutes. Most everybody has 3 to 5 minutes. If you tell them it's going to take 20 minutes, nobody's got 20 minutes for anything. So, hey, this is only going to take a few minutes. Basically, on this call, I'm going to need to get some information about the property and things of that nature. And I'll tell you a little bit about how we work. And if at the end of that 5 minutes, if it seems like there's more we can talk about, we can. Or maybe that'll lead to me coming out to take a look at the property. And I'm happy to do so. And, I'm happy to make you an offer. And if my offer fits what you're looking to do, that'd be great. We can take the steps from there. And if not, then that's perfectly all right too. We absolutely want to let people know that it's perfectly all right if we can't work together, because we want to let people's guard down. People get kind of guarded, and they want to make sure they're not going to be taken advantage of. And what are you going to? You go, hey, we can't work with everybody. A lot of times I tell people right up front, I'm not sure your house is going to meet our buying criteria. I want to start taking it away from them right from the beginning. I don't want people to think that, oh yeah, we buy every house, we'll buy any house. Oh no, we buy houses that meet our criteria. And what's our criteria? Well, our criteria is a house that we think we can make money with. And our criteria is a house or people that have a situation that we can help. That's our criteria, but we don't know that until we talk to them. So I ask them about the property, ask them, gee, if you're, sounds like a nice house. I mean, forget me if you were going to sell to me, or, well, frankly, anybody for that matter, why would you? And then listen to the reason. Why are they going to sell? We're looking for motivation. We are not in the business typically of buying houses from people that want to sell a house. People that want to sell a house call realtors, they list them, and they're looking to extract every last dollar they think they can out of their property. And despite this hot market, every day we get calls from people that are in a place where they're willing to sell their house for less than it might be worth. So we're listening for distress. Either the property itself is in distress, needs a roof, has a cracked foundation, needs updating, things of that nature, neglected, maintenance, deferred maintenance, if you will. Sometimes the people are in distress. I talked to a lady today. It was kind of funny. She goes, well, this is my childhood home. We've been here a long time. I've been married 34 years, but we might be getting a divorce. I go, might be? I go, what are you going to do? Flip a coin? Like, who's going to decide? What does that look like? And, she started laughing. We had a nice conversation around that. The house is going to need some work. It's probably not going to be a house we're going to be able to do business with. But I still spent a half hour on the phone with her, which is way too long in most cases. But I made a new friend. I gave her my cell phone number, and you just never know whether she'll call in the future, or maybe she'll refer me to somebody. So I always try to leave people on a good note. Phil wants to know, do I help people with filling out documents and contracts? Yes. I don't know how to screen share. Is there a way we can screen share? I'd be happy to pull up the simple 2-page cash deal contract that we use in our business, but I don't know how to do it on this platform.
Okay, I'll make you presenter so you can share. Okay,
Well,
you should.
hold on. Let me. Here, take me down from sharing just yet. Let me dig out what I'm looking for.
So below there's a screen icon. You can click on it.
Okay, here we go. Okay. Can everybody see my contract? Looks like you can.
Yes,
All
we
right.
can see it then. Thank
All
you.
right, excellent. So this is so simple, and it's that way on purpose because we don't want to complicate the simple. And I don't know why it is that when you go to buy a car at a car dealership, whether it be new or pre-driven, used car in my day, um, it takes 5 hours. What the heck takes 5 hours to buy a car when you know what you want, what trim level you want, what color you want, and it's still an all-day jerk around. Yet you can go on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist and go to someone's house that's selling a car in the driveway and see it, drive it, and decide on a price and be gone in a half hour. That's kind of the difference between a listed property and off-market property in our world. So we're dealing in the off-market space. We're buying directly from the seller, and the contract does not need to be complicated. We have used this contract hundreds of times. It's never been a reason why we can't sell it. Yes, it lacks a lot of language about a lot of things. But again, in our market, the reason it needs to be this simple is because what we want to avoid, if at all possible, is a seller saying, well, I want to take this contract and run it by my attorney. I'll tell you, that is the kiss of death almost with certainty, unless you have all the right language and you have another 15-minute conversation about that before they do it, because that'll absolutely change the outcome. And I don't know that we're going to have time to get into what that conversation looks like tonight. But for tonight's purpose, let's just talk about what this contract is and how to use it. It's super simple. There's a couple psychological hacks built into it, so I want to make sure you know what they are. But let's start at the top. Um, Let it be known the underside. So in our case, it's Reinvest Homes LLC and or assigns. Um, Once in 100 times, somebody might ask you, well, what do you mean assigns? What does that mean? Most of the time, again, 99 out of 100 times, nobody asks. Remember, we're dealing with people that are in distress to some degree, and people in that place aren't asking a lot of questions. They're just thankful that you're there, and they're thankful that you're going to make an offer on their house. So typically, after we've had a tour of the house, we find a way to go sit down at the kitchen table, and I just pull the contract out. I mean, I'm here to buy a house. That's why I'm here. So um, what I try to do is I try to do my homework before I get to the house. So you have the address, pull some comps, see what you think the ARV is going to be, and then you'll have to get an idea, on the fly, what you think the repairs might be, so that you can work your formula to come up with your offer. I show up at people's houses prepared to do business. I know a lot of investors like to come look at the house and then tell the seller, okay, thanks, I'm going to go run my numbers, I'll get back to you. And if that's a method that you like and that works for you, then by all means do it. I'm just telling you that I don't do that. I go there, and my expectation is I'm leaving with a contract. Agrees to purchase from seller, write the name of the seller. You can write owner of record. I know some people like that. It keeps it simpler, but I like to actually put the seller's name on it because then it personalizes it. You put the address, city, state, zip code, etc. Then I skip this next section where the price will be. I skip that and I go right down below it to number one, and I draw a big X all the way through it, and I initial it off to the side, and I go, hey, we're going to cross this out. This just is talking about a mortgage, and this is going to be a cash deal, so I'm not going to get a mortgage, so we're just going to cross that out. Number two, it talks about a home inspection. I tell them, hey, listen, I'm going to cross this out. We're not sending over the $500 home inspector because you know those guys are like IRS agents. They're not coming over here and spending 3 or 4 hours only to come back without any problems. So we're just going to skip that whole thing. And lastly, even though I'm licensed, this isn't a commissionable type of arrangement. We're just working off the grid, you and I. So there's no commissions that are being paid. So I crossed that out. Number 4 says it's going to be sold free and clear with a good marketable title. That's what happens when you close with a title company. You get owner's policy for title insurance. That's what's meant by a good and marketable title. Then number 5, the closing shall occur on or before. I say normally we try to get these deals done in 30 days. A lot of times we can get it done faster. Depending on your needs, depending on how busy things are at the title company. So I say 30 and I write 30. Hold on a second. Maybe I can. How about I'm looking for. That was a different one. All right, I was gonna pull up one that's already filled out, but you get the idea. So I say 30, I write 30 business days from acceptance. Everybody's good with 30 days, but 30 business days is actually 45 days. So that gives you a little more wiggle room, if you will. I remind them that the buyer, I'm going to pay all the closing costs. We're going to order, the title is going to be ordered through Old Republic. Investor Title is going to serve as the agent on that. Is going to place the order. This is all important because this is a thing that will jazz you up with sellers' attorneys because they don't like this. But if you're going to do a double close in particular, it's crucial that the title work is all done together because you can't close A to B over here and B to C somewhere else. So it all has to be done simultaneously. So that's what number 6 is. Number 7 just says that if we don't perform, they're going to retain the earnest money, which in our world we write down $100. This number 8 is the out clauses, if you will. So subject to the buyer's inspection and approval of property prior to the transfer of title. Every once in a while, somebody will say, well, wait a minute, I thought you weren't doing an inspection. I go, yeah, no, this isn't a home inspection where we're going to come look for all the problems. I'm just saying we're going to probably drive by the property in the morning of closing just to make sure it didn't burn to the ground. They go, oh, yeah, okay. Subject to financial partners approval. Every once in a while, someone will say, well, why don't you get your partner's approval first? And I have to explain to them that would be nice. I wish I could do it that way. But the reason my financial partners have money is because they don't waste time. So I can't, they don't want to spend a bunch of time analyzing a deal and saying, okay, that looks good. And then you and I can't get together on a price because that's a waste of their time. So once I have an agreement, then I can bring it to my financial partners for their approval to move forward. And then the critical one, if it's not vacant, is seller to provide buyer's representatives with access for inspection, repair estimates, and to market the property upon acceptance. Wait a minute, market the property? I thought you were going to buy it. I make sure that they realize that there's going to be 3 different outcomes of us working together. I'm not going to live in the property, so I have to treat this as an investment. And the way the movie's going to end is typically 1 of 3 ways. Either I'm going to buy the home and I'm going to make an additional investment after I buy it with the thoughts of reselling it in the future, God willing, for a profit. Sometimes we'll buy a house, we'll make an additional investment, maybe not quite as big as if we were going to sell it, but we're still going to have to do some things, and we might add it to a rental portfolio. Before you offer that up, it's always important to listen to your sellers, because sometimes people, that have lived in a house for a long time, or it's their childhood home, the thought of it being turned into a rental property kind of gives them an icky feeling. And if I get the sense that they might feel that way in any way, shape, or form, then I don't mention that we might rent it out. Lastly, I remind them that, in the same way that school bus drivers know other school bus drivers, and accountants know accountants, and engineers know engineers, and etc., that as a real estate investor, I just so happen to know and associate with a lot of other real estate investors. And every once in a while, we might take a property like yours, we might pass it off to one of our investor friends that we know is looking for a project like this. We don't have unlimited resources, but at the point where we've agreed on a price and you're counting on a closing and you're counting on a sale in the agreed amount, and I guess maybe this is as good a time to ask as any, but as long as you get the money that we agree on, is it matter if it's my money, or is it okay if it's somebody else's? And I've never had anybody say that that's a problem. And the reason it's so important to bring this stuff up in the beginning, because if it is going to be a problem, I certainly want to know about it in the beginning so that we can address it and work through it. I don't want the big surprise coming after I've assigned it to somebody, and all of a sudden the seller catches wind that I'm not actually buying it and they blow a gasket. That's not good. So let's just put it on the table what we're going to do. We're either going to buy it and sell it, we're going to buy it and rent it, or every so often we might, we don't have unlimited money, unlimited resources, and every so often maybe, you called me, I get phone calls from a lot of people, and sometimes there's more stuff coming our way than we can do, but we want to be a solution to you, and because we have other friends that do this, we may just pass it off to somebody else. It's unlikely, but it's possible. And then lastly, if you're licensed, you have to sign off on this, letting them know that you're not representing any of the parties in the transaction. Taxes are going to be prorated at 105% of the last bill. Nobody ever asks about that, but if they do, we remind them the taxes are paid a year in arrears in Illinois, and that next year we'll be paying this year's taxes. And it seems like in Illinois, they always raise the taxes, so we're hedging that we're going to pay more in taxes next year than this year, which is why it's 105. If you really want to be a hero, sometimes they go, that's not really going to be a big deal, and I cross it out and just write 100%. It's important that you tell them that the offer may not represent the current value and that our intention is to make a profit. Most importantly, that this is a legally binding contract when signed. So, I know that all contracts have a 3-day, get out of jail clause, if you will, but it's important for them mentally to know that when they sign this, it's a binding contract. And I fill in the 27th day of September 2021. I sign it and I date it. Then I go back to page 1 and I say, all right, so how much are you going to sell me the house for? And then let the games begin. A lot of times people, they don't want to tell you that number. And they might not want to tell you that number on the phone either. And I stop them, I go, listen. I go, I don't know what, fancy negotiation school you went to. I'm not, and I know they probably teach you, whoever gives the first number loses. I go, forget that nonsense. I go, I'm here to try to help you. And, the way I can help you is, I'm not saying I can do it, but frankly, it happens. It's happened, I think, 2 or 3 times this year already in our business, is if you tell me how much you're looking to get, if I can do it, I will. And if I can't, that doesn't mean we can't work together. It just means that I'm not just going to give you a flat out insulting offer. I'm going to kind of pull you around to my side of the table and give you an idea of how I'm looking at and how I'm evaluating this property, so that, It doesn't mean you're going to like the number I'm going to come up with, but at least you'll have an idea of how I came upon it. Is that fair? And people often agree and go, yeah, that's fair. People like the word fair, so I try to drop fair a couple times in the conversation. Um, so we agree on a price, $100 earnest money, deposit to be held by Old Republic Title, and then the balance at closing. Now, one of the things that people sometimes will say is they want their attorney to look it over. At which point I start laughing. I go, "You're kidding, right?" I go, I go, "What exactly is it that you'd like your attorney to review?" I go, "Usually you need an attorney to review a document that, well, like the normal contract's 14 pages, and as soon as it starts using language like herein and all that other lawyer talk, yeah, I'm lost too, and I would need someone to look at it. But this is written for a third grader, and the fifth grader could tell you what it says. So is there anything about it that you have questions about? Anything that you're unclear about that I can possibly answer?" Oftentimes when they throw that bluff up, it's they don't need to show it to an attorney. They're just not happy with the price. And they don't really, some people don't like confrontation, and they'd rather just say, okay, well, your offer was too low and I'm not going to sign this. And I don't want to tell you no, because then you'll, come at me again some other way. So they just say they want their attorney to look at it. So I address it head on. I go, usually when people aren't jumping across the table to sign it before I change my mind, um, I mean, let's just say it said 122,000. I go, is $122,000 not the number? I thought that was kind of the price that we agreed on. That's why I wrote it down. And sometimes they'll say, well, I was just hoping to get a little more money. And I laugh and I tell them I was hoping to be handsome. We don't always get what we hope for, but the deal's pretty tight as it is. I try to give people as much money as I possibly can, all the way up to the point where it puts me at a financial risk by doing so. And frankly, we're pretty much at that number right now. But I am going to pay all the closing costs. So the only thing that you're going to pay off the price is the tax prorations, of course. And I have an attorney that'll handle everything for $500. Normally, you would pay that. I'll tell you what. Why don't I throw another 500 on it, and then that way that'll cover the attorney. And oftentimes they're happy about that and they'll sign it. And it's not that it's a lot of money, it's just that it's kind of a little moral victory, and they in fact got a little bit more than maybe they thought they were going to get. The other question begging to be asked is, Dan, let's talk about number 1, 2, and 3. You cross those out every time. So if you're going to cross them out every time, why don't you just take them out? And again, that's kind of the psychological hack here, is that when you have a document that's boilerplate and all you're going to do is put a name, a date, and sign it, that's very cold. At the point where we start marking this thing up and crossing things out and initialing it, now it's not a contract, it becomes their contract. And there's a little more feeling of, this is what's going on here. And we want to give people the idea that we might be doing some things for them that we might not be doing for other people. So that's why we leave it in and we cross all this stuff out. Hold on, let me get to the. I don't know if I can get to the chat box here. Here we go. Is there any questions? No questions? Easy, right? If you
Yeah,
don't
Dan, Ray Johnson here. How about relocating the leads on these?
say it again,
How are we locating the leads on these?
the leads for what?
The leads to call to find the people.
Well, that was the first half hour of the call where we talk about
Oh,
all the
all
different
right.
ways.
Sorry, I joined. I didn't join until like about 20 minutes ago. So
Oh, no, that's okay. So we were just talking about all the different ways to find sellers that you're not going to need to send direct mail to. So whether it's calling them, putting door magnets on your thing, door knocking, flyers on bulletin boards, calling attorneys of probate and things of that nature, moving companies, carpet cleaners, the big
yeah.
thing is getting your name out there and let people know what you do.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Can you use a 7.0 contract to make an offer? Absolutely, you can. And I can't think of one good reason why you'd want to. Why would you want to do that? Guadalupe. The reason that we don't want to use a 7.0 is because it's complicated. And people don't like to sign things that are complicated. And on a 7.0, they're going to want their attorney to look at it for sure. And not that that's the end of the world, but what the attorney's not going to like is when we cross out the whole section about how title's being ordered and who's paying for it and how that's handled, because that's a profit center attorneys don't want you to know about. And if they're not the ones ordering title for the seller, they're going to not like the deal. They're going to cause some fear and doubt. And that 7.0 has all sorts of clauses. And I mean, frankly, it's mostly things to protect the buyer, but the value proposition on a off market and on a cash deal is that it's going to be easy. And there's nothing about a 14-page contract that makes anybody think this is going to be easy. So we want to keep it as simple as possible, and we want people to sign it. And there isn't anything about this contract that wouldn't allow it to close. As a licensed broker, so Jonathan, great question. From the minute I talk to people on the phone, before we start talking about price, before we get down the road too far at all, I say, hey, by the way, I need to tell you that I'm licensed. I normally don't say I'm a realtor because some people don't like realtors. They had a bad experience. They don't want to work with a realtor. And if they think you're a realtor, they throw you in that bucket. And that might work against you. So I just tell them that I'm licensed. I say, hey, by the way, I need to tell you that I'm licensed, but I'm not here looking for listings or things of that nature. I'm looking mostly just to buy properties for my own consumption, if you will. So you have to disclose that. And then, of course, down here on number 9, uh, notice of no agency relationship. So this is notice of no agency being provided as required by state law. The buyer is a licensed agent. I put my license number down. And it says I'm not representing any parties in the transaction. That's really all you need, at least in my experience. Any other questions?
Yes, I
when it
have a
comes to filling
question.
out this contract, I
How do you,
find the most effective place to do it is at the kitchen table. The kitchen table is where families sit around and talk about. Those are when they're sitting. Just my experience, brass tacks, and then we go into the kitchen. Is an important question. Are creatures of habit? If you're an adult and you have a thing in the exact same, you sit in their seat, just ask them, did I get hacked? Me? All right. So,
Hello, Dan. Can you hear me? Hello, Dan.
I think we lost him.
Oh, okay. All right. So, and I'm not sure. I believe, yeah, we lost Dan. Well, for everyone who joined tonight, let me share to you, for those who don't have access to Chicago Deal Vault, we are giving you 30 days free trial for Chicago Deal Vault. And I'm going to share to you a bit about how Chicago Deal Vault works, what the portal is all about. So this is Chicago Deal Vault portal. You will have access to MLS properties, off-market properties that we categorize into these categories. You have list of private lenders, cash buyers. We also do have list of uh, properties that you're going to wholesale. So part of that is for us to invite you as well to our wholesale inner circle and cash flow inner circle group. So for this Chicago Deal Vault portal, you will have a list of pre-foreclosures. For example, these are the list. We currently have 44,000 leads and more. And then this is how the properties looks like when you open up a property. You have all of the details that you need, the comps, the current owners, and the good thing is we do skip tracing, so you will have the contact details of the seller or owner if you want to reach out to your seller or owner. So it's also easy without sending letters to your sellers or owners. Aside from that, you can search MLS properties, and also the good thing about this is you can also do your analysis. You can make use, you search for the comps, you can make use of the rental calculator, make use of the flip calculator. You can also generate your documents and contracts, generate a report, for example, to submit to your lenders if you need a report that you can also use. Aside from that, we would also like to invite you to join our wholesaling group and cash flow inner circle. So you have a lot of questions for wholesale inner circle, wholesaling. So every week we have meetings, usually on a Sunday at 1 p.m. It's Hugo who hosts the meeting on Sundays, and with that, Dan Clarkton is also one of our mentors for wholesaling. So he also joins from time to time from wholesaling, and he is one of the mentors as well for the wholesaling inner circle group. So in chat I posted about how we are able to join the wholesale inner circle, and as well as with how we are able to attend the meeting on Sunday. So you just send an email to support at ChicagoDealVault.com, and that should do. So I believe Dan is back. Hello, Dan. Can you hear me?
yeah.
Yes. Hello, Dan.
Yes. So I'm back. So you guys got the gist of it. If anybody wants a copy of that contract, feel free to email me. I'll be happy to send it to you. Garland also had a question here about using the marketing clause. Is it possible to put the property on the MLS? Um, that's something you'd have to work with your managing broker on, but I would think for the most part the answer is no. I know people have tried to do stuff like that. It always becomes a problem eventually. Um, it's more than we're going to get into tonight, but there's a novation agreement that you can use that would allow you to put it on. But just remember, if you're going to put it on the MLS, that if people are, if unless it's vacant, I mean, again, one of the value propositions we bring is they don't want people traipsing through their house. So with the idea of working with a cash buyer is it's a one and done. So does that make sense? I think that's all. Is there any additional questions before we wrap it up?
Do you have to be licensed to do wholesale deals?
That's a great question. So in August of 2019, a law was passed in Illinois that says if you're going to do 2 or more wholesale deals in a year, that you have to be licensed. So yes, it's a licensed activity. So I'm just going to tell you, to my knowledge, what the actual spirit of the law is, and of course you're free to do whatever you want. A lot of people have a misconception about I can do one deal without a license. That's true, but it's not true. So let me tell you how it's true. If you go to someone's, you were at somebody's Labor Day barbecue, and they said, "Hey, you still buying houses?" And you go, "Well, yeah, I'm kind of, fooling around with that." And they go, "Hey, down the street is this house, and I think the old man died, and the kids have been over there cleaning it out. Next time they're cleaning it out, I'll give you a call. Maybe you want to drive over here and, say hi." And you do that, and you strike up a conversation, you strike up a deal. Is that okay? That's perfectly okay. Maybe you're a flipper and you've already done 5, 6 houses this year, and you've got another one under your belt, and your work crews are all tied up, etc. And the money's tight. You don't have the resources to do yet another one, and you dish that off to somebody else. Is that okay? Yeah, that's okay. So, what's not okay? Well, according to the way this is laid out, is that if you're doing licensed activity in the pursuit of that one deal, well, then that falls under, license law. So if you're putting out marketing, if you have a website, if you're cold calling, if you're sending direct mail, that's all considered licensed activity. Now, that said, attorneys, title companies, and are not charged with policing this. So at Investor Title Services, if you bring us a deal, we're not asking you for your license number, or we're not going to do your deal for you. The fine is $25,000, I understand. I also understand that there's been a couple of people that have been pinched. So I don't know what was involved in that, what caused it, but at first I thought the whole license thing was going to be a bad deal, and I got my license, and it hasn't affected our business in the least. To some degree, it might have helped it because people feel like they're dealing with somebody that's a little more professional, maybe, or that is, quote, in the business differently. And how that affects you when you talk to sellers is, without a license, if the seller says, "Hey, what do you think my house is worth?" You buy houses every day. What do you think my house is worth? Well, when you're not licensed, you can give a politician answer. You can say something like, "Well, I mean, at the point where we put a new driveway, a new roof, new windows, new kitchen, new this, blah, 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 it'd probably be worth somewhere around 260. Well, that didn't really answer the question. When you're licensed, you have to be a little more forthcoming. And you'd say, "Well, I mean, your house in as is condition today might be worth 110, maybe 115,000 if we were to list it and go through that whole charade. But, I mean, on a cash deal for my purposes, frankly, I'd have to be somewhere closer to 90. So you kind of have to be honest with them. And believe it or not, that's not going to work against you. People don't always want the maximum amount of money. They usually have a situation and they have a problem they need solved. And yeah, they want money, but It's not always about the money differently than when you're choosing to sell your house. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So if you're unlicensed, then bring a licensed person on board. This is the nature of a lot of the JV deals we do. People bring us a deal. They go, hey, I think I have an opportunity. And go, all right, let's take a look at it. And we assess right away if it's not an opportunity, because if it's not, we want to cancel that contract immediately. And that's a very, that can happen when you're new, because when you're new, let's face it, you're not your skills aren't sharp yet. So you may not have a really good gauge on what the cost of repairs are going to be on a house. You might not have the right intel and the right experience to really nail what that after repair value is, because those are the two things that are critical in an off market and or wholesale deal. Because if you don't get the ARV right and you don't get the repairs right, it's unlikely you're going to have a contract at a price that's going to work and it's going to make sense for anybody, to sell it to them. So by bringing a licensed person alongside, you can make sure that you actually have a deal. Because again, let's just be straight on this. We can have all those out clauses and all that nonsense in those contracts, but the reality is, if any of us, myself included, ended up standing in front of a judge and or jury, and you have a contract that says, I'm going to buy your house, I'm going to buy as is, I'm going to pay cash, I don't know that you can find an excuse for why you didn't close. Because frankly, there isn't one. That's the nature of cash and as is. So we have those out clauses. It's been a long time since we've used them. And if you do, there's, a 99.5% chance it's never going to be an issue. It's never going to be a problem. But if you don't handle a seller the right way and they have an axe to grind and they want to take legal action for your non-performance on an as-is cash deal, you could have a problem. And I've been doing this a long time, and this just dawned on me literally in the last, this summer at some point. It dawned on me that at the point where you sit in someone's kitchen and you tell them that you're going to give them, a cash deal at $180,000, if they pressed it even further in court and they subpoenaed all your banking and financial records, and at the point of time when you wrote that contract, if you can't show that you have $180,000 somewhere, last time I checked, that's called fraud. So then you can add that to the problems you'll have. But again, all this is avoidable by working with somebody that has some experience that can help you navigate the deal and make sure the numbers are right on the front end. Because the last thing we want to do is we don't want to cancel contracts with people. That's why when you're new, I always suggest try to focus on vacant houses. They're vacant now. They'll be vacant while you have it under contract. And if you can't find a buyer because the price isn't right or whatever, it's still going to be vacant. And there's really no harm, no foul, which is far different than someone that's going to lose their house to back taxes in 30 days. And on day 26, you bail out because you couldn't find a cash buyer. And then they lose their house. That's a whole different story. And we don't want to do that to people. Right?
Right.
Right.
Okay, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Danny, we really don't have much of a reach. I don't think you need a license in Indiana. You don't. And we don't have much intel. We don't have buyers. We don't really work the Indiana market. So, frankly, I don't think we would be your best resource in that area.
All right. So, yeah, thank you so much, Dan, for all the information you have provided. Thank you for gracing our webinar tonight. As always, you are amazing. The tips and processes you mentioned will surely help our investors in this webinar. Wholesaling is fun and make it a fun part of your investing experience. So we had a healthy conversation with the attendees and answered questions. You were able to answer the questions on point. So everyone, Dan and Chicago Deal Vault is here to help you if you have questions. You can reach out to Dan or to us by emailing to support@chicagodealvault.com. Dan's contact details is in chat. You can reach out to him as well. Dan, thank you so much for joining tonight and for having us, for being our guest speakers, and for our attendees, thank you as well.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night, everyone.